Thank you for coming out to AgPitch today at the Rural Maryland Council Conference. When I broached this idea about 18 months ago, I had a group of people around me that said, we have no idea what you're talking about, Andrew. In my past life, I spent a lot of time in the emerging technology, biosciences, cybersecurity world, and pitches like this are fairly commonplace, where you get an entrepreneur, gets on stage, talks about their business idea, and the judges vote and they get a big check on stage and a lot of applause and they walk away. When I came over to the agricultural sector, I said, where does this exist? Where is our incubation system for ag innovation, ag technology? And there are pockets out there, to be sure, but there really wasn't anything that was concentrated. And I felt, okay, in order for us to demonstrate what this means, we need to put on a pitch and show the folks what this could be all about. And Charlotte Davis was kind enough to say, okay, you can have 45 minutes in our conference, and I guarantee you we're going to blow the clock because we are already starting very late here. So I'm going to apologize in advance to the GIS team who is coming in behind me because I'm sure they have a lot of computers set up to go. How this works is this is a crowd pitch, and we're very fortunate today to have Monica Beeman in the room. Crowd pitches in Baltimore originated with Monica, and I was at a CPA firm at the time, and I went to my first crowd pitch, and I said, this is phenomenal. I said, Monica, you get a blank check. I will forever sponsor anything you ever do, and I'm going to sit in the audience and have a great time. And it worked out real well. So when I thought, okay, well, I'll do an ag pitch here, I'm like, that sounds easy. No, there are a lot of details. So please keep in mind, this is our first one. We already have a running to-do list for next time we do one of these of all the things we've messed up on. So please forgive us if we've forgotten something, I haven't told you what it is. So how this works is we're going to have 5 people, 5 agricultural entrepreneurs come up here and talk for 5 minutes about their ideas. We have a panel of judges here, who I'll introduce in a second, who will also ask them questions, whether it's clarification points or what have you. At the end of the session here, they're going to position themselves by the doorways with the basket. And you're going to vote with those BioStar dollars that you have for those ideas you like. And because you have 2 BioStar bucks, $256 denomination ones, you can break your vote up as well. The judges have some extra dollars there. So at the very end of this, where we have another session, we're going to tally the votes. And during lunch, I thought I saw Kurt in here. Did he wander somewhere else? Anyway, Kurt, there he is, sitting in the background. Kurt is going to be on stage giving this big check to one of our 5 finalists. And all the finalists will win cash prizes. And there's a lot of ancillary benefit to being a finalist here in this. There's a lot of folks around the country who are now very interested in ag innovation. And they would like to talk to some of these finalists as well, in addition to all the television and cameras here. So our idea is to generate a lot of footage of this, so after the event is over, we can parse that out in different ways. So before I get to the people on that'll be presenting here, I want to talk about the judges as well. Mike Tilke on the end here, he wears a multitude of hats, but I probably think the biggest and most exciting news from Mike Tilke is he was one of the winners of the next great incubator in Maryland idea with F3 Tech. So this is a recognition by his peers and by the state that the ag innovation is something important. It's something that the state wants to get behind. So congratulations on that. Thank and all the news coverage that you got. For those of you who don't know Jenny Rhodes is one of our directors. Again, we are a cooperative, so we're member governed. Jenny is probably one of the more famous people in the agricultural community, and there was some concern this morning of getting her on stage because she was running from another event out on the Eastern Shore, and we were worried that if she showed up at the door, everyone would want to shake her hand. And if we put all those plus signs together between the shakings of the hands, this event would be over by the time she got on stage. So I'm really honored and thankful to have you here as well. Larissa Chuaka, and it's like Chewbacca without the B. Thank you for that, because I was phonetically working through it and it just didn't make sense to me, so thank you so much. Larissa's with the Applied Ag School at the University of Maryland, and she is a wellspring of ideas. So this ag pitch, proof of concept, obviously it works. So this has exceeded my wildest expectations. We're going to be doing a lot more of these. And Larissa's already given me 5 or 6 different topics that we can discuss as we have curriculum built around an ag pitch itself. So I'm excited about that, and also, I guess, congratulations on leaving the corporate world and coming over to academia as well. So thank you for that. And last but not least, Gianna Arnold I'm going to say Saul Ewing, and what are the other 2 names now that have been attached to that?
Arnstein and Blair.
Okay, I probably should have rehearsed that beforehand. Anyway, Saul Ewing has merged, so now it's not just SE, it's SEAL, which I imagine that's going to be the acronym that you guys are going to be going by as well. Gianna is not only a partner there, Is that correct? Okay, good. I want to make sure of that. I should have checked my notes as well. Gianna runs the ICOI, the Incubator Company of the Year Awards in Baltimore. So she is well vested and very deep in the entrepreneurial community. So thank you very much for coming out here as well. So we're going to go in order that is on the AgPitch flyer here. So Dr. Kelton Clark, better known as Kelly, because if you call him Dr. Clark or Kelton, he'll probably correct you. Why don't you come on up here and tell us what you got going on?
Thank you. There you go. First of all, I want to thank everybody, thank the Maryland Farm Credit, and I want to thank all of you for coming out to support innovation in agriculture. You should give yourselves a hand if you haven't already. I'm with Open Shell, where we bring revenue and growth to agriculture. I'm going to give a talk here. This is my first pitch experience with this, so I'm not familiar with it. So for those who I do things differently, I'll just lay it out. I'm going to talk about the problem, the solution, and the market. My slides are intentionally text dense because they're just there to be available for you for later, for those points that I don't touch on now. If you feel at any time during this talk that you want to do a spontaneous applause, I'm okay with that, just so you know. So the problem, all right, let's make money here. The problem is that in the aquaculture industry in Maryland, there are bottlenecks, and those bottlenecks constrain growth. Bottlenecks resulted from our focus on doing in the farm. All of our money is going into the farmers, so there's no infrastructure on either side. They include things like there's no infrastructure, there's no workforce, there's no real technology. So what we looked at, and I'm keeping an eye on the time, so what we looked at is how do we solve these bottlenecks? And one of the things I looked at in pitch talks is supposed to be an epiphany moment, so here's my epiphany moment. When I went with one of the farmers to Hong Kong, one of the buyers wanted to buy from him 1 million oysters a week. He said, there's no way I can do that. Not even think about it. I said, well, why not? What is stopping him and the industry from making 1 million oysters a week? Maryland used to be the largest producer of oysters in the country and in the world. Now, in a $136 million industry, we produce $5 million. So what is it? We said, well, we're going to look at those bottlenecks and say, apply this 1 million oyster a week model and say, identify the bottlenecks, identify the solutions to the bottlenecks, and then monetize the solutions. Do we have the next one yet? Oh yeah, I can go now. I guess. Fine. So that 1 million oysters a week model is what Open Shell does. And we apply that model to the industry, and we look at things like, I think I have examples up here, when you look at the processes that result in, are you ready for this, 60 to 80% of the stock, they lose it. And that's an industry standard, that they're okay with that. Imagine you had a corn farm, and they said, here's the seed, but only 20 to 40% of them are going to germinate. There's no way to run an industry. And much of that is because of the processes which are involved. So we have a contract with a farmer to look at his nursery operations and prove them, and at the end of that, we will leave him with a nursery manager. Things like technology, we have technology in the pipe, so where we have inventory control in this industry consists of somebody with a clipboard and a piece of paper trying to keep track of hundreds of thousands of oysters in the water. But we have looked at the industry supply line. How am I doing? 2 minutes? I can talk extra now. We looked at the industry supply line and said, where are the places that there are bottlenecks? Where are the places we can solve those bottlenecks, and how can we make money? And is there enough money out there? So we'll talk about the market. How am I doing? Oh, yeah. So, 1 million oysters a week. The last estimate, the last average is 41 cents an oyster. That brings you up to 21 million oysters. Right now, $21 million. Right now, the entire industry in Maryland is at $5 million. And we have the statistical models, and we can show you where the potential is, where it's right now being underproduced. But instead of that, I'll tell you a story instead because they're more fun. That same farmer, he has a standing order from a national chain supermarket for 400 boxes a week. It's 100 oysters per box. He can only produce 75. When you talk to wholesalers, they say all that you can give us. But we're not just talking about Maryland with this program. Saying we can do this in Maryland, we can make money in Maryland, we can grow the industry in Maryland. But this is scalable. We can take this to Delaware, North Carolina, where there's also issues, similar issues down in the Gulf Coast. And we can take it internationally. South Africa is almost identical to what we're doing here. Similar issues. There's an oyster in Brazil, which one of the people we're talking to. It's a beautiful green emerald-colored oyster. They would like to market that oyster here, but they need to have the infrastructure there to produce that oyster. We have a problem of bottlenecks. We have a solution of identifying those bottlenecks and monetizing the solutions. And we have a market which is both national and international. I have 32 seconds left, and if you'd like to use the entire time for applause, that's all right. Thank you.
I'm going to turn the microphone over toward Judge Security Maryland.
Please, go ahead. No.
So I understand the opportunity, I understand the problem. I'd like a better sense as to where you are at as far as the solution. So I see the supply chain management concept, and I see that you plan to develop other innovations related to mini hatcheries, recycling, things of that nature. So maybe a little clarification on where you are at towards the solution.
Go back one slide. I'm not sure that, what slide? Yeah, maybe solution. So where we're at now is that I'm actually meeting with this person next week to finalize this contract. The hatchery construction, we have meetings on December 5th to work out the space. There's a site in Piney Point where we're working with the Department of Natural Resources, Morgan State University, the College of Southern Maryland to convert this, and our role in this will be we will take over that hatchery and run it. We hope to have it. If a miracle occurs, and I'm living a just life, we'll be producing this year, but certainly we'll be in production next year. These technologies in the pipeline, not something more of a TECO issue. We have 2 meetings coming with TECO to talk about moving those forward. One of them is in-house, one of them is with Morgan State University, and the other is 2 other companies. And this training certification program, we're working College of Southern Maryland. That should be coming up next year. And it's the same program that we're working with DNR to renovate that existing facility. I don't know if that answered the question.
No, that helps, thank you.
Mr. Clark, could you help us understand what's the revenue model? Are you charging a consulting fee? Is it a % of savings? How is it that Open Shell is monetizing some of these initiatives?
Well, it depends on the initiative. Some of these initiatives will be one-off, like his nursery farm contract. We will help him. It will be a year. We will, at the end of that year, we will have produced his product for him, and he will have the choice of hiring the person that we have or not, and we're done. This one is a hatchery, so that model is a hatchery. Once the hatchery is constructed, we will continue to make money off of the seed produced there. We also plan to diversify into 2 other products at that hatchery. So that this one will retain and continue to provide revenue. And similar with IP, there are people here, we actually have, did I introduce Peter Edinger yet? Yeah, because there's no reason not to embarrass him. Go ahead and stand up, Peter, because then we have people who are working with us to develop the IP and technology. It's not really my there, but we're in the licensing of the technologies.
Understood.
So each of these problems and each of these bottlenecks will have a different solution and a different way to monetize that solution.
Thank you.
Great. And we're going to go to the next one here just out of courtesy of time. We can ask guys some questions at the end of this. Is that all right?
Okay.
That's fine. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
I'm offering $10 for each ticket. I did the numbers. I spent $2,000, I get $7,500. You don't have to do the pitch anymore. I think we'll win. Life is water. I'm all about the water. The concept is improve water, improve growth. 70% of our body is water. So is plant. Watermelon, 90% is water. So let's start talk about water. Next. I'm going to talk about acronym real quick. The NGI stands for NABAS Group Inc. It's a Maryland corporation, owner of the patent, NABAS. NABAS is a Nano Air Bubble Aeration System, is the name of the technology. ppm is a unit of measurement what's inside the water called parts per million, also known as milligram per liter, and DO stands for dissolved oxygen. Groundwater has about 4 ppm of DO. That's how much fish needs the oxygen to live. Tap water is about 79 as a comparison. So when you hear about fish kills during summer, usually because the heat and the sun depletes oxygen and the big fishes die. Point is, live fish need oxygen in water, plants need oxygen in soil. The 3 areas that we can help with: contaminated water, low oxygen and lack of nutrients in water. If you can address those 3 issues with water, you can actually improve growth. Next. So we take contaminated water, and if you look at the bottom left, we have hydroxy-OH radicals. We eradicate all pathogens in the water. Then we increase the oxygen level up to 20. We can actually go up to 50. We found out the maximum level of ppm DO for plant is about 20 to 22. Then we can add CO2 and nitrogen gas to improve growth, to give nutrients. All at the same time, as you can see on the right. So the secret sauce is the 91% efficacy. The patented technology on the right is a multi-stage, 2-tier system. Beats the water 20,000 times per second, and creating tiny bubbles to create efficacy in the water better than anybody. So, you know what Reagan said, trust but verify. So I said, don't trust me. Well, trust me. But we verified with the Microbac laboratories back in 2015. We took Inner Harbor water, which had 3.2 ppm of DO, raised it to 20 in 5 minutes. It was 100 gallons. We eradicated all the bacteria in the center chart, and the ammonia went to 0. Smell went away, without changing the characteristics of the water or the pH balance. Next. Installation is very simple. You got the water source. You attach a NABAS unit to water source and give oxygenated clean water to the plants. Next. You can have a loop system, recycle water in the greenhouses. So same thing, the installation is very simple. It does not change your existing process, just an addition to it. Next. So case study, sunflower microbeans. We yield was 25 to 60% increase, and we found out that 20 to 22 ppm of DO is, oh, she's making me nervous now. 20 ppm. Next. Rose has life cycle of 12 years. After 12 years, it says, before you cut it down, let's do a test. This was in March of this year. The rose bloomed after 12 years, and the farmer was very happy. He didn't cut it down, he was get extra revenue. Next. Root system. One of the important thing about our nanobubble is that it prevents anaerobic bacteria. It takes away the anoxic zone in roots. Next. Case study, tomatoes. 50% less fertilizer, 11% bigger, 40% heavier. 40% heavier is sold by the pound. There's 14% more revenue in your produce. Next. This is our unit. Lease option is possible. It is post-commercialization. With help of farm credit, we're talking about how to finance it for the farmers. Next. Oh, by the way, it's okay. I'm running out of time anyway. Everything's self-contained, ozone and oxygen generator. Ooh, got a minute. 2 more slides. Go back, back.
Going back.
Hey, I want another 2 seconds on the clock. The farm animal disinfection is one of the usages. Because it's oxygen, ozone, oxidation, actually a lot of pigsty use our system to get rid of the smell. Important is on the right. Using just air, nanobubbles without oxygen or ozone, we got rid of 94% of bacteria and 96% of leaven mold. What that means is not just clean, shelf life. Extra 7 days of freshness, crisp, and no spoilage. Next. Last slide. Ooh, 16 seconds. All right, intrinsic benefit. Optimal light absorption photosynthesis. Nanobubbles transmit 93% more light. On the right, read real fast because I'm running out of time. 5 seconds. Got it? Thank you. That's it. I made it. Yes.
I'm curious, is it one size fits all? Is it the same piece of equipment regardless of the volume of water that
It goes to flow rate. So when you have, if you ask me, I want your NABAS unit, I would ask you, how big is your water? Based on the turnover. So we have 2 horsepower, which does 22 gallons per minute, all the way up to 50 tons per hour, which is, 220 gallons per minute. So it really depends on it. It's scalable and it's small. So you can have multiple, and it goes on a trailer. So you can move it around. It's not that, it's about this size. It has an oxygen ozone generator inside, so you don't have to, and it's a self-contained system.
And what's the business model? Is it just one-time purchase, or is there a recurring revenue stream associated with this?
It depends on the, there's 2 pricing actually. There's value pricing and cost plus pricing. When we do OEM relationship with, for example, membrane company, or other ozone company, other value pricing, because it goes into their system. When it comes to farmers, you're going to cost plus pricing. So yes, you buy this yours, we can lease it through farm credit, and we can continue doing it. It's like a copier. You can lease it or buy it. Does that answer your question?
Except with the copier, you're continuing to do service and maintenance. I assume you're going to be offering
Yes,
that
we
service
offer
as well.
maintenance.
Okay, thank you.
My question would be, so your research that you showed, have you worked with any universities, or where did all your research come? Was it in-house, or?
Well, the microbag was outside. There's another test we did with NOAA. Dr. Peter Moore is a toxicologist, and he said some of the cysts that chemical could not even kill, we were able to kill it. So it's OH hydroxyradical. It's very, very powerful. And there's a whole separate presentation just on hydroxyradical. It's all natural. So actually, we're doing a joint test next year in North Carolina about killing cysts off of North Carolina. But it's in-house as well as Bunnell University. And I'm looking into, I talked to Larissa about that today, about working with the University of Maryland, environmental Dr. Williamson.
Yeah, thank you.
Good. Well, we'll move on to the next one. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. There we go. And thank you for coming today. I appreciate it. It's good to see you.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Thanks everyone else for coming to listen to the pitches. So I'm with Vaxi, and Vaxi is developing affordable, effective vaccines that can be delivered orally for the aquaculture industry. Next slide, please. So aquaculture has a big problem, which anybody who grows fish probably knows about, which is that lots of fish die every year. The industry loses $22 billion globally to fish kills, mostly due to disease. And that's 14% of all the fish we grow. Next slide, please. So the problem is that as we move from harvesting fish from the sea to farming fish, we introduce a lot of conditions that aren't naturally present. We confine fish to more crowded, smaller spaces. Oftentimes we're recirculating water, and we're having to grow fish for long periods of time. Fish are too small to inject when they're actually most vulnerable to getting sick. And because of that, we're not able to protect them until we need the 2.5 to 3 years till we harvest them. Next slide, please. Currently, we vaccinate fish for some diseases, but the process is sort of ludicrous, and I'll walk you through it. So we drug fish with anesthesia so that they'll tolerate being manhandled, essentially. We then put them on a conveyor belt, send them over to a station where a person sticks them with a needle manually. Then we put them back on a conveyor belt and drop them back in their tank. As you can imagine, fish probably don't like this very much. And more than just the fish's mental health, it actually also impacts the fish's physical health. They get more stressed and they get sick in spite of the fact that you just vaccinated them. So the process clearly doesn't work. So that's why we decided to come up with this solution to essentially feed fish their vaccines in the same way you would feed them food. This is a little bit of a caricature. You want to dose it out and measure it a little bit, but the idea is still the same. So what we do is we go out to farms where there's been a virus outbreak. We capture the virus, model it, and essentially reproduce the proteins on the surface of the virus that tell the fish's body that it's a virus. And then we use that to make the fish think it's gotten a virus, even though there's no chance of it getting sick. And we use that to protect the fish when they're young, when they're really young. Think like the size of your pinky finger. And then maybe a little bit 2 or 3 months down the road to help the fish be protected for their lifetime. So what we can do better than anybody else is we can provide oral vaccines that are cheaper, better, and farmers can actually afford them. And so the reason for that is that we can sell our vaccines for only 1/3 the cost of current injection vaccines and remove all the excess labor that goes into producing an injection vaccine and administering it. And so we can also then provide protection for 2.5 years, which is about the lifespan of the more expensive high-value fish like a salmon or a sea bass. So for European sea bass, which is what we developed our first vaccine for, is a disease called viral nervous necrosis. That market is estimated to be about $420 million based on the number of fish that are lost each year. Thanks. So what we want to do is get our vaccine to market in the quickest, least costly method possible. That means we need to conduct a challenge study to actually prove that our vaccine works in a way that the FDA or the USDA will say, this is actually an appropriate vaccine, you've proven it works. So we've done a first challenge study that's demonstrated this vaccine does work. Now we need to do one at scale for it to have enough data to take to the USDA for approval. Once we do that, we're going to undergo some optimization of our formula and of our manufacturing process to drive our costs down and improve the efficacy still further before we then move into hopefully licensing to a larger company like a Merck Animal Health or a Skredding, who can then disseminate it to all the farmers who need access to it. So if we look at the economics of our vaccine versus what a farm normally faces, for a farm of 100,000 fish, you could potentially lose $700,000 of fish or more in an epidemic. If you buy insurance, you're still going to be out of pocket almost $200,000 for that. And most farmers don't have that much money on hand to restart their farm if they lose their fish. With our vaccines, for one disease, even if you only lose 1.5% of your fish, your farm will be protected for less than $10,000 to $15,000. So there are other vaccines on the market, but not for viral nervous necrosis, which is why we chose to start here. And as I mentioned earlier, we can be cheaper and help protect fish younger than any vaccine currently on the market. So as I've already mentioned, we can vaccinate 6 months earlier than any vaccine on the market to protect fish when they're actually going to get sick, rather than waiting until they're big enough for us to use an injection vaccine. And that's really what we want to do, is protect fish at the hatchery stage. So as I mentioned, we've done our proof of concept, and now we're going to work on our optimization of the vaccine to improve the efficacy and get it ready to go to the USDA. Thank you.
Very good. Judges.
How do you achieve that lower production cost? You had estimated at 30%, 33%.
Yes.
What's the secret sauce behind that?
So that's actually a high estimate, number one. And the primary cost driver of delivering a vaccine is actually in the human injection. It's in labor capital. So 70% of the cost of delivering an injection vaccine is in the human cost of having a person literally standing there injecting fish. In addition to that, we actually produce our vaccine in insect larvae, which allows us to drive the cost down because we found a way to produce it very cheaply.
So it's a total solution cost that's lower, not the vaccine itself.
Yes.
Thank you.
That was kind of the question I just wanted to add. So the cost per fish that we saw in some of the material includes all the multiple doses?
Yes.
Or is it just the single?
Yes, it does. So our administration is not a single dose. You would feed the fish usually for 2 to 4 weeks, and that would be the cost for 2 to 4 weeks plus a booster of another 2 weeks.
Do you have a proprietary position as related to vaccine?
Yes. So we filed one provisional patent on the overall formulation of our vaccine plus adjuvants and other things that go into the pellet. We're also in the process of filing some patents through the University of Maryland in Baltimore that we have exclusive licensing rights to for the specific vaccines that we're creating, so the molecules that replicate the actual virus.
And have you finalized those licenses? Are they to be determined?
The licenses have been
They've
finalized.
been finalized. And what's your estimated time through regulatory approval?
So for this first vaccine, we estimate the biggest barrier right now is actually getting enough funding to do a challenge study. And then once we do that, we estimate from start of challenge study 9 to 10 months to get through the regulatory process.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, yes, look at that.
Just
Don't look, don't look.
Yeah.
There we go.
Thank you for having me. And my name's Bennett Wilson, and I am the founder and CEO of a company called Tillage. Next slide. So I want to tell a story to talk about the problem. That's Ava, that's Nancy, and that's Nancy's sprayer that she pays Ava to run. Next slide. This is essentially the problem, and there's a lot to take in here, but this is the process that Ava goes through to spray 3 acres of grapes across a 50-acre vineyard. It takes about 7 to 8 hours for him to do that because he has to go back and basically respray because he's not getting the right coverage. This is tedious and wasteful, both in terms of Ava's time for himself, but also what Nancy is paying him to do this, and then also in terms of the substance that's getting sprayed. It goes everywhere else except for the plant, oftentimes. Nancy's spending almost 20% of her budget on crop protection, paying Ava just to maintain and refill the equipment. Next slide. So why is this so costly? Essentially, it's ineffective equipment. Most air blast sprayers, 50 to 85% of the product actually doesn't go where it's supposed to. It goes to other people's farms, it goes to other crops, it goes into soil that it shouldn't. And so that's part of the problem we want to solve. It's also just high maintenance. That's that long setup time. You have to change the nozzles and all sorts of stuff. So this means more return trips to get that better coverage, and then more refill trips to fill up for the return trips, which means more money lost out of Nancy's pocket. Yeah. So our goal is to reduce that spending by 20%. We've created something called the Mr. system. Essentially, what we want to do is help farmers do more with less of what they're spraying. We want to save them valuable time at 4 a.m. before the wind picks up and all you really want is a cup of coffee. We want it to be low cost and approachable, and we want to safeguard soil because there'll be less spray in the environment. So what we've created is a highly efficient and accurate tow-behind sprayer for a very reasonable price. So why is this special? Essentially, we're working on licensing a patented Navy technology. The key thing about this is that the droplet size, the pressure, and the flow rate are all adjustable. The other piece about it is that it was developed to fight fires with less water and just as effectively as a giant fire hose. And it does that with 75% less water. We think it could do the same thing on a farm. The other thing is it doesn't clog because the orifice is designed to be bigger, so you won't have that same thing happening. The other thing we want to do is create an on-the-go control device, essentially an app that people can have on their tablet, so that AVER doesn't have to, when the wind changes and stuff like that. I'll talk about that later. Next slide. So what are the problems that we've solved? Essentially that bad coverage. We can create more efficacy and reduced risk, reduced drift. That means less respray trips, less refill trips. There's no nozzle to change because it's attached to the device permanently, and there's no clogging. This is just a ton of time and a ton of money on substance. Next slide. So we decided to target really air blast sprayers, plants that go up. I'm not a farmer, so I've learned about this, but canopy spraying, vineyards, coffee trees, fruits and vegetables, or fruits and berries, sorry. And then really the small and medium-sized farms. And that's because in our customer discovery, we figured out that there's not a lot of high technology, like really cool, innovative stuff for smaller farmers. They're really designed like to be $200,000. And we want to really be approachable to the people like Nancy. Next slide. So we've done some competitor analysis. The only company that really offered the same adjustability is a company that's called Capstan, and they have something called pulse width modulation. That allows for a lot of adjustability in those different factors, but it's about $200,000, along with various add-ons. These other companies are all sort of air blast sprayers, but they have they range between the $2,500 up to $150,000. So there's a big range there. We're the only ones that kind of meet right in the middle at that very approachable market. Okay, great. This is our team. That's me. That is the inventor, Dr. Joe Wolf. That's my dog Timber. Follow him on Instagram. We're hiring a farmer in chief because I don't have the ag experience that I need. I've been sitting in a lot of people's kitchens. And then an engineer or designer. Thanks. Our ask is for $7,500 to really dig into designing and prototyping this and really testing to see if it works. And then also connections to people that want to join our team. Next slide. Thank you very much. We're Tillage. Have a great job. Okay, I'm here.
So my question is about your app. So, how do you see that working? You said on the go.
Right. So what I imagine in my head, and I am not a designer, but I think it would be something where you can, I really wish I had like a whiteboard, but pictures. So you can slide it like a real scale. So you say, I want to move this down or move it up, so it's like circles, kind of like on the car dashboard, but you can pick. And then you choose the settings and stuff like that. So it would be something that's sort of sits on the dashboard that you can attach to the dashboard. What we'd also like to do is make it so that's not necessarily necessary. You can adjust it from outside because some people are not. We talked with farmers that didn't really like the idea of technology too much. So I think for those that want it, we want to be able to speed up their process if they'd like to do that.
I think you described this as a walk-behind mower, as a pull mower, sprayer.
Mm-hmm.
how do you calibrate the spray based on your desired volume, spray volume, pattern, and the walker zone personal speed? And connected to that, is the nozzle attachable to any sprayer, or does it have to be your sprayer?
That's a good question. I think the way that I envision this, and this is also a technical question that would be great for the inventor to answer, but I think I imagine it that the tank and the hose and all the stuff is all part of one thing. So it's not just the nozzle. The nozzle is a special piece, but it works, the whole thing works together. So you'd have to purchase the whole thing. And we talked with a few farmers that had maybe bought something that looked something like the thing that Nancy had. I have other pictures of other ones that are about $3,000. So it's around that same size, but that's what we go for.
So you're licensing, you're in the process of negotiating a license from the Navy. The inventor that you had, is that the person that invented what you are licensing, or is that the person that's going to be creating these other aspects?
Good question. That's the person that invented the thing that we're licensing. And it has been, I should say, just, I don't know, it might mess me up, but it's been licensed for other things. So it is, in some ways, it's a proven concept. It hasn't been licensed for agriculture, though.
All right, thank you very much.
We have product. Oh, you didn't count that? I want to thank you all for letting me be here today and have this opportunity. Good. We are a certified organic farm in Frederick County. We actually celebrated our 25th year this year. We are a grower of certified organic produce and mushrooms and plants. We also have developed a highly sustainable, unique blend of potting soils or sustainable soilless mixes. Farm Credit is a partner in our operation. We are a rural Maryland business. We are located in central North Frederick County, strategically located for our marketplace. Okay, here's the challenge. The challenge we started with was challenge 1. Organic soilless mixes do not have effective wetting agents. Also, they're basically peat-based soils, and peat-based soils require multiple waterings in a day, especially in a greenhouse environment. This increases labor, this increases water use. When we got into this, we found a second set of challenges. Soilless mixes, whether they're conventional or organic, are really not sustainable. They're made from predominantly 3 components. Peat, which is a harvested component that grows back at 1 millimeter a year. Vermiculite, which is a mined unit, which requires a large amount of energy to exfoliate and to be used, and it's a finite resource. Perlite, which is a mined unit, which requires a lot of energy to be expanded, and it's a finite resource. As we got into this, we found some tertiary problems too. Some mixes contain peanut products that cause allergies with some growers. The peat mixes require a lot of water. Water is the big issue in agriculture for the next 50 years. And the shipping freight's huge because they're bulky. We started with a desire to solve a problem, and we solved that problem. We ended with a desire to make a true environmental difference. We cut watering from a typical greenhouse 12-hour periods, 36 to 48 hours. We reduced the manufacturing total energy cost of the mix by taking out those mined products. We use 100% renewable products from the waste stream. So we took products that were normally agricultural waste and turned them into a real product. We added value to the waste stream because now those are things you don't just throw away. Those are things that have value. And we have also, some of our mixes have a nutrient component, which is 100% non-mined organic nutrient charge, again from the waste stream. The results are the plants grow. These have huge roots on these plants. They grow very well. It's an easier mix to use with less water and less labor. This is not a small market we're in. We have some old numbers here. In 2006, the specialty soil oil market was $390 million. These markets have grown significantly since then. In 2010, the entire U.S. garden market, plants, soils, garden tools, was worth $100 billion. This is a huge market. Our product is predominantly focused right now on commercial growers, but we do have a consumer outlet too to be able to grow that. The market has grown consistently. Our products service a large section of growers, both organic growers, medical cannabis. This is a big topic. This product would work great for that. Homes, schools, a lot of different customers. The conference is about bridging the urban and rural divide. What a better way to bridge that urban-rural divide than to put urban youth growing plants in greenhouses in a peaceful environment, taking rural youth down and letting them teach how to grow plants and using a very easy, forgiving soil like ours to do it. Where we're at now. We've developed an excellent product. We're on generation 4. We have a customer base that's growing. We are shipping product. We are small. We have worked on cost reductions. Our product is cost competitive in the marketplace. We've addressed grower needs and environmental needs. We're strategically located in central Maryland to supply Pennsylvania. The #2 organic producer in the country is PA. So we are strategically located to supply them what we need and what the funding will be used for. We need more efficient equipment to manufacture. We need an OMRI certification, which is basically a paperwork thing. We need marketing dollars for expansion to let people know about our product. We need capital to hire employees. I can't emphasize enough, the money will be put in hiring employees immediately. We are ready to grow. This funding will be put to immediate use and produce immediate results. In summary, we have a very unique product for the market. It has a presence in the market now. The product has significant impact on our ag economy by reducing cost, creating income economies. Additionally, this could be franchised to other regions of the country. And we have a better way to bridge the urban and rural divide in Maryland. And we appreciate your consideration. We're asking for full funding so we can get this project moving up faster.
Is there any intellectual property associated with this?
Our formula was basically the only intellectual property that we have right now, and it is very unique. I know of no other mix.
But it's not going to be patented,
It
or?
can be patented. We don't currently have.
Because otherwise I'm curious as to how you stay ahead of the competition.
We stay ahead of the competition in 2 ways. 1, we could patent our recipe. 2, we are doing research on other value waste stream products now to incorporate the mix. Basically, nobody has this mix now. You're right, we need to keep ahead with the next mix, but we're going to have to do research on other ag products that we've already identified. We just haven't had time to do that.
Thank you.
A couple of questions. So first, just as far as your IP strategy, watch out for time bars. So you still have that opportunity, I would just say?
Excuse me?
Watch out for time bars as far as your IP strategy, because there are some out there.
Okay.
Okay, but my question's related to scale up. So right now, I assume you had spoken that, you know, this was, you could use waste material. Presently, are you using material from your own farm to create this?
We are not using material from our own farm. All of the product comes from various regions
Okay.
that we are bringing into our farm. Our farm is basically a blending operation, and we've used it in our greenhouses to trial and to provide, prove that it works.
Okay, so I guess you've identified exactly what base materials you need. My question's all related to scale up, you know, so it's one thing.
Those materials have identified. This is actually the first year that we've actually purchased material in full bulk. So we have the price of the product down. Our product with a nutrient charge is competitive to other products without. So we offer more value at the same price. And our limitation right now is physically in mixing equipment and labor to be able to put this product out in a higher volume.
So right now you feel your limitation isn't material based, it's more the
No, the
manufacturing
materials,
process.
since they're from the waste stream, are plentiful, they're readily available, and they're not really that expensive based on the fact that they're coming out of the waste stream.
Good. Well, listen, I'm gonna just make a little bit of a stop here again. This is proof of concept, and obviously the excitement here is palpable. Thank you so much. We have gone over a little bit, but we started a little bit late, so I'm gonna hopefully have a little bit of allowance for the RMC, and again, my apologies to the folks that are following us. The 5 finalists are all getting their baskets, and in their baskets shall go your BioStar bucks. So if you would, they will be positioned by the door, turn the way out, drop your dollars in there. If you have secondary questions, hi Bennett, do you want to come get a basket too? Come on up, you can do that as well. You might have some sidebar conversations you'd like to have with them. They will welcome those. What we'll do is we're going to tally the votes during the next session, and during lunch, we're going to present this big check on stage to one of these 5 finalists, and you will determine who that finalist is. So thank you very much for coming on.
The room, you could feel the energy, the excitement. I mean, we really saw 5 excellent presentations about innovation in agriculture and rural Maryland. And so I won't, without further ado, I'll introduce Mr. Ben Lee, who won this year's AgPitch. Mr. Lee is the CEO of NABAS, which is Nano Air Bubble Aeration System, which is the product, the innovation that won the challenge. So congratulations, Mr. Lee.
Thank you.